In movies, a soldier takes a bullet and whispers, "Goodbye." That takes 3 seconds. In real war, dying can take 3 days, sometimes 3 weeks. Sometimes the wound that kills you is not the one you noticed first. That is the part movies almost always cut away from. War death is not one experience. It depends on the century you were born into, the weapon that found you, the medicine that did not exist yet, and a few seconds of luck nobody can train for. A man in a Greek formation does not die like a French knight at Agincourt. A soldier in a gas cloud does not die like a soldier inside an armored truck. The word is the same: death. The body hears it differently every century. Start in the ancient world. You are a Greek hoplite, maybe 22 years old, standing in the 4th row of a phalanx. You cannot see the enemy clearly. You can see the back of the helmet in front of you. You can see your own shield. You can feel hundreds of men behind you pushing forward because if the line breaks, everybody breaks. The sound is not the clean metal clash from movies. It is pressure. Wood against wood, bronze scraping, men breathing too hard, sand under sandals, someone yelling a name that disappears into the wall of bodies. A spear comes through the gap, maybe below the ribs, maybe into the thigh, maybe under the arm, where armor and shield do not cover enough. If it cuts the throat or enters the chest wrong, the story is short. But many spear wounds do not kill immediately. That is worse. A wound below the ribs can leave you conscious, moving, even fighting, for minutes, maybe longer. The spearhead can tear intestine, liver, stomach, vessels you do not know the names of. Your body responds by trying to keep you alive long enough to get away. Adrenaline narrows the world. Pain becomes information, not meaning. There is heat, pressure, a wetness you do not have time to check. If you survive the field, the next enemy is slower. Infection. No antibiotics. No clean abdominal surgery. No sterile operating room. A wound that a modern hospital might treat becomes fever, swelling, thirst, and the smell of the body losing the argument. You do not always die where the spear hits you. Sometimes you die days later, asking for water, while the battle has already moved on. That is ancient war. Not a glorious fall, a puncture, a weight, a fever. Now move to Agincourt, 1415. You are on the French side, a nobleman perhaps, or a man-at-arms moving through mud so thick it tries to keep your boots. Ahead of you are English longbowmen. They are not close enough to touch. That is the problem. An English war arrow can travel at around 60 meters per second. A gunshot. In 2020, researchers at the University of Exeter studied medieval remains and found arrow wounds with damage patterns compared to modern gunshot trauma. The arrow does not simply enter. It drills. It splits. It turns bone into a record of the force that reached it. One skull showed an arrow entering through the eye socket and exiting the back of the head. That death is fast. Most are not. The strange thing about arrows is that a person can carry one longer than expected. There are records of men fighting with arrows lodged in arms, legs, shoulders. Adrenaline lies to you. It tells you the wound is manageable because the body needs movement more than honesty. So you keep going. Then the battle ends. The lie ends with it. The arrowhead may be barbed. Pulling it out can tear more than leaving it in. If it missed the major vessels, you might live through the day and die 2 weeks later because dirt, cloth, metal, and flesh had been forced into the same narrow tunnel. A medieval arrow wound is not only a hole, it is an invitation to infection. Agincourt is remembered for numbers. Thousands of French dead. A tiny English loss by comparison. But the body does not experience a battle as a ratio. It experiences mud filling the greaves, breath inside armor, a shaft sticking out of the thigh. The moment someone says, "Do not pull it out." And then the waiting. Now Belgium, 1917. Ypres, mustard gas. This is where war learns to be patient. You are a soldier in a trench. The air changes before the terror does. Maybe you smell garlic, maybe mustard, maybe horseradish. Something faint enough that your brain does not immediately call it death. That is why mustard gas was so cruel. It did not always announce itself properly. The mortality rate was often low compared with the number injured. 2 to 3% is the number often given. That sounds almost merciful until you understand the design. Mustard gas did not need to kill most of the men it touched. It needed to blind them, burn them, fill hospital beds, remove them from the war, make them afraid of air. For the first hours, you may not feel much. A little irritation, a smell. Maybe nothing serious enough to stop what you are doing. Then 6 to 12 hours later, the body begins to report the truth. Eyes swell, skin blisters. Moist tissue burns first. Eyes, throat, lungs, groin, armpits. The eyelids can swell shut. The airway can blister from the inside. If the lungs fill with fluid, death becomes drowning without water. Not in minutes, over days. You are awake for part of it. That is the cruelty. A bullet can end a story too fast for fear to finish forming. Gas gives fear time to learn the room. Poet Wilfred Owen watched a soldier fail to get his mask on in time and later wrote of a man choking, drowning, guttering through the froth-corrupted lungs. The old patriotic sentence said it was sweet and fitting to die for one's country. Owen called it a lie. Mustard gas made that lie hard to keep polished. Because men did not simply fall. They came back wrapped in bandages, eyes closed, lungs damaged, alive enough to remember the cloud. Now the modern road, Iraq, Afghanistan. A convoy route that looks empty until it is not. You are inside an armored vehicle. Maybe you have done this route before. That makes it worse, because familiarity starts pretending it is safety. There is no enemy in front of you, no line of spears, no longbowmen, no visible cloud, just road, dust, engine noise, someone talking over the radio. Then the ground comes up. The blast is not only sound, it is a pressure wave. It moves through the vehicle. It turns the thing built to protect you into part of the injury. Floors buckle, seats move, panels become impact. The legs take what comes from below. Modern battlefield medicine can keep people alive through wounds that would have ended every ancient story. That creates a different kind of survival. Traumatic amputation, brain injury from pressure, internal damage with no dramatic wound for a camera to understand. A soldier can wake up in a hospital with no memory of the explosion and still carry it in the body for the rest of his life. The older wars at least gave the mind a shape for danger. A man with a spear, a line of archers, a visible cloud. The buried bomb gives no face, no warning, no duel. The road is normal until it is not. That is modern fear. You do not just fear what you can see, you fear the ordinary surface of the world. There is a pattern under all of this. Weapons change, flags change, the language of honor changes. The body remains old. It still bleeds, swells, burns, drowns in its own fluid, misreads pain when adrenaline tells it to keep moving. Movies taught you that death in war is a scene. History says it is often a process. A spear wound becomes fever. An arrow becomes infection. A gas cloud becomes blindness 6 hours later. A buried bomb becomes a lifetime of damage after the blast is over. So the next time a soldier dies in 3 clean seconds on screen, remember what the cut is hiding. The real thing does not always cut away. The question is not whether you would be brave. The question is whether you would want to know what dying actually feels like before it found you.